Hello, fellow Christmas lovers and enthusiasts. You are listening to Closer to Christmas, the Christmas podcast that when every episode comes out, we all get a little bit closer to Christmas. My name is Charlie, and on this episode, I'm going to play an interview I did with my son Max again after we watched the full-blown Christmas episode of Cuphead on Netflix, and the episode was titled A Very Devil Christmas. So now that you know what this episode's about, go grab your Cuphead and Mugman, fill it with coffee, and join me and Max as we go to the Inkwell aisle and talk about this episode. All right, everybody, thank you for listening to Closer to Christmas. As I said at the top of the show, my name is Charlie. If you're a new listener to the podcast, thanks for joining us. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back for more. Before I play the interview, I just want to say that Christmas week is here. It's going to be over before we know it, so I hope everybody's prepared for the holiday season. And this podcast will be coming back after Christmas, so you don't have to worry about that. This is going to be a year-long podcast, so it's not seasonal. So make sure you're staying tuned to my podcast feed if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to catch it. And make sure you're also staying tuned to ChristmasPodcasts.com, where you can find basically every podcast that is in the Christmas Podcast Network. Every time an episode gets posted, it will be listed on there. So make sure you're checking that out as well. Without further ado, I'm going to get back to the interview with Max. This is the full-blown episode of Cuphead on Netflix. This was episode number 6 on season 3 of the Cuphead show. It's called A Very Devil Christmas. All right, so we're back to record another episode of The Cuphead Show. This is season 3, episode 6, called A Very Devil Christmas.
Yep.
I'm joined again by my son. Want to tell everybody your name again?
Max Agu.
Okay, so listen, hopefully, since the last time you guys heard the show, you were able to watch Cuphead, kind of get a feel for it so you understand what some of these characters are, right?
Yeah.
Because like we mentioned in the last time that we recorded, the characters are crazy. There's no humans. The only human, I guess, actually was Santa in this episode, right?
Yeah.
He was pretty human looking. Everybody else is just crazy characters like slices of bread, light bulbs. What else? I mean, little dogs. Like everything's like, there's even characters that kind of look like Mickey Mouse. Like there's a lot of Disney ripping off going on in Cuphead, you know? Especially the old lady that we'll talk about a little later when the devil did a little number on. So listen, the premise of this episode, this is the full-blown Christmas episode, right?
Yep.
So the plot for this one is Christmas brings out the worst in the devil, who notoriously is naughty, until he schemes to get on Santa's nice. That's all he wanted. It's all he wants to do is get what for Christmas? Do you remember?
A tutu.
A choo-choo. The devil kept saying a tutu, like the devil, or I'm sorry, Santa. Like was Santa just kind of being dumb and just kept saying tutu, or did he really think that the devil said a tutu?
I don't know. I don't really know.
It was pretty funny, though, because he just kept thinking he said a tutu, but it was a choo-choo. But
Tutu.
that's a little bit later in the episode. So the episode starts out with, like, this very Charles Dickens scene. It's like a city. There's, like, you know, the town Christmas tree, people ice skating, it just looked like people caroling, people all over the place. And then it pans to a ice skating rink, and there's a whole crowd of people ice skating. Then it just zooms over, and you just see the devil standing there, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember what he did?
He sung a song again.
Yep, he did. The devil in Cuphead is a very, very singing character. Like, he's always singing stuff. He reminded me a lot of the devil in the Powerpuff Girls. Like, he's very flamboyant type of a character. Like, but he sings everything. But he sees the people sitting there on the ice, like having a good time, and he just touches it with his pitchfork, and all of a sudden the ice breaks and the people just fall in. Did you enjoy this episode more than the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was a bit longer. I think it was like a 30-some minute episode, but it was definitely a Christmas special. When the episode started, though, it was like snowflakes falling down. It kind of reminded me of how The Grinch Stole Christmas when that starts, with like the snowflakes falling from the sky, and then it just starts into a song. I'm going to play that song from the opening part here.
Christmas time's my favorite time. Christmas time's my favorite time of the year. It's the holiday spirit that makes my heart swell. The hanging of stockings, the balls of the tree. It brings out the best in everyone, but it brings out the devil in me. It's a hustle and bustle and filled with cheer. Those holiday feelings we all hold so dear makes Christmas time my favorite time of the year. It's the laughter of children, the goodwill towards men, the spirit of giving and festive snowmen makes Christmas time my favorite time of the year. So what makes this time so special to me? It's actually quite simple, you see. It brings out the best in most everyone, but it brings out the devil in me. Yes, it brings out the devil in me.
The devil like destroys the whole town. He's basically like trashing everything, you know? And then as he's walking through the town, he sees a toy store.
Oh, yeah. And then, like, there's a little tutu there.
Yeah, he sees a choo-choo in there and he just loses his mind. He's like, a choo-choo. And, like, he fell in love with it. Like, he wanted that train so bad.
And then, like, it made that little noise. And then the devil was like, it made a noise.
Yep, he fell in love when it went choo-choo. It was funny.
What a marvelous little train. Oh, there he goes. Oh, look at the little wheels. Oh, it makes a little noise, too.
But then he hears something from the other side of the toy store window. So basically that whole scene, he's like staring in a toy store window, and it reminded me a lot of A Christmas Story when they're sitting there at Higbee's looking in the window. He rounds the corner and he sees a little baby slice of bread, and his mommy was the mom like a slice of bread, or was she a sandwich or what?
Sandwich.
Okay, so she was a sandwich, but she looked like an old lady with like pearls and stuff, and she wore like high heels, and she was sitting there holding the little slice of bread's hand, and he was just sitting there saying all the stuff that he wanted for Christmas. But then do you remember the main thing that little bread wanted for Christmas?
Rocket ship.
Yep, a rocket ship. And then what did the mom say to him? Do you remember? She's like, you're not getting that rocket ship because you're on the naughty list.
Oh, yeah, because you glued your sister to the ground.
Yep. She goes, you're on the naughty list because you glued your sister to the floor. And then she goes, permanently. So that means like she's there forever. Could you imagine? So this little slice of bread just gluing his sister's face to the ground. But that's what I mean about Cuphead. Like, the characters are so weird. So, yeah, a talking slice of bread that looks like a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mommy, I want that. And I want one of those and that. And I want one of these. And I want new marbles. And I want a bunch of candy. Oh, and more than anything, I want a spaceship.
What a greedy little brat.
Oh, you wanted those same presents last year, Sammy Sandwich. But you didn't get them. And why was that again?
'Cause I glued my sister's face to the floor.
Permanently glued.
Ooh, I like this kid.
You know, it's almost like you want to end up on that naughty list.
Naughty list? What the heck is that?
But I've been good all year. I've got to be on the nice list.
Yeah, okay.
Nice list? And what is that?
But then, anyway, when she says about the nice list, the devil's ears perk up a little bit, and he's like, the nice list? He didn't know anything about the nice list. So then all of a sudden he goes back down to hell, and when they go down to hell, there's like a table set up in there. It's like a boardroom, and all his little henchmen are sitting around, and then like the one guy that has like a really big egghead, he's the stickler. Like that's what he calls him, the stickler. But he's the one that just sits there and he's like, yes, you need to follow the rules. Like he has like, he's a stickler for everything. But they're all sitting there talking about the devil and the nice list and being naughty. And all of a sudden the devil shows up and sits down and he just says, wait, did you know something about this nice list? And someone said something, and he just shoots them and kills them, right?
No,
Like
the person said he knows about the nice list.
And then he just like aims the pitchfork at them,
Like,
and it just burns them up. And he does that quite a few times in this episode. We're going to talk about one a little bit later, which surprised me that he did. You'll know what I talk about when I get there.
I think I know what you mean.
I hope so. So yeah, so they're sitting around there at the table talking about the nice list, and then all of a sudden he's just like, "No, I'm gonna get on the nice list." And then all of a sudden they just pan to the North Pole, and like I talked in the last episode, some of Cuphead is like real life things mixed with the cartoon. So when they went to the North Pole, you saw all the houses in the North Pole, and they were real houses. But they looked so cool. What did you think about the way the North Pole looked? It looked pretty fun.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
And then when they went into the workshop, all the elves, there were tons of elves everywhere sitting there singing a song.
Like 1 quadrillion elves.
And it was, I like the way the elves and Santa looked in this episode. I'm going to post a picture of those up so you can see it. But the song they were singing was great. We're going to play a bit of that here too. Again, you're not going to hear it.
Yeah, I know.
Making Christmas toys, 'cause it's that time of year.
There's no time for fooling around.
Santa's make this clear. Making Christmas toys, spreading love and cheer.
All the kids are counting on us.
Christmas time is here.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, elf number 15. Ooh, nice tricycle, elf number 62. Little Susie will love it. Keep up the good work. Christmas is nigh. Ho, 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 ho!
But yeah, they were singing a song at the North Pole. So they were singing all about toys and making toys, and then Santa shows up. And again, I love the way Santa looked.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool.
He looked like an old cartoon, like the old classic Betty Boop cartoons. But then Santa walks away, and he walks into his, what would you call that, Santa's room with his big chair and stuff in it? Just his room or his den?
Yeah, I guess.
But then when he's in there, you hear someone say, "Hello, Santa," and Santa's like looking around, and then all of a sudden the chair spins around at his desk, and who's sitting in his chair?
The devil.
The devil. He goes to Santa's room and just sits in his chair. Pretty disrespectful, right?
Yeah, why you do that to Santa, devil?
But he's in there, and then Santa calls him a hairy little boy, right? Because he goes, "Whoa, who are you?" And he's trying to figure out who he is, and he goes, "You're a hairy boy."
Hello, Nicholas.
Ho, ho, hello. Goodness, what a hairy boy you are. Oh, my. Who are you?
But anyway, after he calls him a hairy boy, he goes, "What did you want for Christmas?" And he goes, "A choo-choo." But at first, I actually didn't know what he said. It didn't sound clear enough to me to choo-choo, even though I knew he wanted the train from the beginning. But then Santa just goes, "Oh, a tutu, okay." And then, that's where I'm trying to figure if Santa was just not hearing him right, or if he was just being a little crazy. What do you think?
I think that Santa was just being, funny.
Okay. So that makes sense, because he just kept repeating it. But then Santa's looking for him on the list. He goes, "Okay, what is your name? I'm going to look for you on the nice list here." And he pulls out a little nice list. And the devil just, when he goes, "What is your name?" He just goes, "Devil." And he goes, "Devil, devil." And he's looking through the whole list, and he goes, "What is your first name?" And then he just goes, "The." So then Santa's just looking through everything, and he can't find it. And then all of a sudden, he pulls out the naughty list, and he goes, the devil? You're the devil? And like he goes, you are number 1 on the naughty list. And then he holds up the naughty list, and in huge letters it just says the devil. And he's like, you have been the naughtiest person since the beginning of time. And he just like starts telling the devil like he is so naughty he's never getting on the nice list, right?
Yeah.
And the devil's so mad about it because he's like, I want my choo-choo. And he just like kept going nuts. But the devil was like, you will never get on the nice list. And then how did the devil react to that? Do you remember?
The devil like flipped out. He turned into fire.
Yep. And then he just like, every time like he gets mad, like flames like fly up from behind him, and it's like very sinister looking, like very, very scary, you know? Because he kind of hunches his back like a cat when they're mad. And then all of a sudden the fire's everywhere in the back of him. But then Santa offers him one thing that he could do to get on the nice list. Do you remember what it is?
You have to be good for 1 whole day.
Yep. He goes, you have to be good until midnight tonight, and then I'll put you on the nice list. Now, here's where the part comes in where I said, I can't believe that he did this. So the devil agrees to it. Then the devil goes back to town, and he's like, what can I do? What can I do? And then the very first thing that happens, this really old-looking lady that looked like Mickey Mouse, really old, she just goes up to him, and do you remember what she said to him?
Can you give me some change?
Yep, she goes, change for the less fortunate. And then all of a sudden, he just goes, what? And turns around with his pitchfork and goes, ah! And like kills her. He burns her to a crisp. Kills her.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, it just cuts to him back at the North Pole, and Santa's just standing there, and he's just like extremely mad that he just, within 2 seconds, just failed. You know? Then when he's sitting there, Santa does something funny. He's like yelling at the devil, and he's like, I need a drink. And then he just turns around and grabs some milk and just starts drinking milk. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So after he drinks his milk, though, the devil threatens him. He's like yelling at Santa, and then Santa's like sitting there drinking the milk, and he goes, okay, threaten Santa. So he's like adding to the naughty list stuff, and then the devil's freaking out. He's like, no. And then Santa is just like sitting there going, okay. And then all of a sudden he goes, I know what I could do. Then Santa does Santa blow the cold air on the devil first? I think he does, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, he like breathes on the devil, but it's cold air. And all of a sudden it just like spirals around and covers the whole screen. And then it cuts to a scene where there's all the elves, and it's very red and creepy looking. And they're all dressed like in little robes, and they're laying candy canes out on the floor in a circle. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then they just start like speaking in tongue, like speaking weird words. They're just like mumbling. I'm going to play that here because it was the funniest thing. And then all of a sudden, like Santa comes in a robe, and it kind of reminded me of something you would see with like secret society type stuff when they're like initiating somebody in. I don't know.
Santa needs a drink.
Does improvement count for nothing?
At this rate, you'll be on the naughty list forever.
Forever? I will roast you forever!
Threatened Santa.
I'm sorry. I just wanted that doo-doo.
Choo-choo.
Right.
Well, if you really want on the nice list, there is one way, but it comes at a cost.
I'll do anything.
Decatus seasonum holly jolly
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 But it was creepy. They were just saying weird things, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty funny though. And then all of a sudden, the devil just blows cold air again, and then the scene cuts back, and the devil just goes back down to hell, right?
Yeah.
And when he's down there, he's sitting on his throne, and he's so mad. And then all of a sudden, he looks, and his hands start puffing up. Do you remember that part?
Yeah.
Because you were looking at me, you're like, wait, what is happening? Because like his left hand swells up huge, then it like shoots through his body to his right hand, and then the pupils of his eyes turn into like snowflakes.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
And then he just turns into Santa.
Yep, he turns into Santa Claus. Like I don't even know how that happened, but the when he was up in the North Pole, that's what Santa did. He put a spell on him to turn him into Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But do you he didn't look exactly like the original Santa Claus though, right?
No, he didn't.
He still just looked like the devil because his horns were still there, and he had like he did have big rosy cheeks though.
Yeah.
And everything else looked like Santa. But it was funny because when he turned into him, it was like how a werewolf would turn into like a werewolf, but all of a sudden like his skin busts open. It was like the Santa suit underneath.
Yeah.
But he was a pretty good Santa, but he still looked like the devil, you know? So then he's freaking out because he's like, I got to get back to the North Pole and figure out what Santa did. And then he's trying to grab his pitchfork and go to the North Pole. But like the little henchman comes by with the vacuum cleaner and starts vacuuming. And then he's like trying to grab it. Then the henchman sees him and he's like, Santa. And then he figures out that it's actually the devil. The devil told him what happened. And then they went back to the North Pole. And when they were there, do you remember what happened then? He shows up and all the elves are standing outside. And they just go, Santa! Like all the elves start screaming Santa because to them, he's Santa now, you know?
Yeah.
But that part's cool because like when they come into the North Pole, you see Santa's sled sitting outside and all the reindeer are on the front of it, you know?
Yeah.
And then the devil's like, I'm not Santa. And then who comes out of the whole crew of elves? A little stickler elf, just like the one that's in hell, the stickler guy. And they both, like the henchman and the devil look at each other and they go, they have one too? Because he's just like the same guy as that one that's down in hell, but this one's an elf.
Yeah.
Do you like that guy?
I don't.
No, he's like a know-it-all guy. Like he just tells everybody everything, you know?
I know.
But what did he do to the devil this time though? When he shows up, he's just like, you are Santa Claus and you need to follow these rules, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember what any of the rules were? He's like, rule number 1.
Eat all the cookies.
Yep, well, that is one of the rules. But eat all the cookies and the milk that people put out for you. Every one. You can't forget any of them, right?
Yeah.
But rule number 1 is the reindeer roll call. You have to call out the reindeer by name or they don't fly, you know?
Yeah.
Our cat just jumped up and chewed on the microphone. All right, so rule number 2. Santa must remain jolly at all times. And that's what the little henchman kept reminding him because the devil as Santa kept getting mad at stuff. So then the henchman just would look at him and just go, remember, jolly.
Yeah.
You know? So that was pretty funny. But then rule number 3, every kid on the nice list must receive their presents, right?
Yep.
And then rule number 4 is what you said before. All milk and cookies that were put out for Santa have to get eaten and drank. That's a lot of cookies and milk.
Yeah.
Now we know why Santa's pretty big like that, huh?
Yep.
Because the devil in the cartoon and in the game is a skinny guy to begin with, but when he turned into Santa, he was nice and plump.
Yeah.
But then the last rule, you must deliver all the presents by midnight.
Yep.
And then the next scene, the devil's like, all right, I could do this. And he goes out to the sleigh and he jumps in the sleigh and the henchman's standing there with him. And he goes, all right, fly. And none of the reindeer take off. And he's like, why aren't they moving? And the henchman says, you have to do the reindeer roll call. And do you remember what the devil does? It's so funny.
He calls the names all wrong. He says poopy, fatty, and like dummy and stinky.
Yep, it's pretty close. He's like sleazy and fatso and stinky and Larry. And all of them just like don't do anything. So he gets mad and he's like, ah! And like the fire comes up from behind him.
Yeah.
And the reindeer get all scared and they just break loose and fly away.
Yeah.
And they make like little dog sounds, like a scared dog, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. But then all of a sudden they're like, what are we going to do now? And the little henchman guy, He's like this big fat purple guy with the tiniest wings ever. Like
Yeah.
little tiny wings on him. He's just like gets in the front, and all of a sudden it just shows him flying and pulling Santa's sled. It was pretty funny because you're like, wait, how is he doing that with his little tiny wings? But it was pretty good. So they start going to all the houses, and how do you think the devil as Santa did delivering presents?
He actually did pretty good, but just kicking the presents and messing them up.
Yep. He would, like the first house he got to, he wasn't too sure what to do. So he just threw the presents down the chimney. And then all of a sudden the henchman was like, boss. And he hands him his pitchfork. And then all of a sudden he gets down the chimney. But the presents are all covered in soot and they're all banged up in there. And he puts them under the tree. He kind of kicks everything,
Yeah.
eats the milk or drinks the milk, eats the cookies,
Yeah.
takes off. He has a couple of houses like that, but every house, all the presents are so mangled. I was like, I don't think any kid got a good present that year. They were probably
Yeah.
all broken. But
Except Cuphead.
oh, that's true. We'll get to there in a second because he gets to one house that I thought was so funny. It reminded me of when on The Grinch Stole Christmas, how the Who's are all sleeping in one bed. There's like
Oh,
tons of little
yeah.
kids. I think it's like an homage to that scene because he gets into that room and the bed's sitting there and all the little stockings are at the foot of the bed and he's just dropping little tiny presents into each one.
Yeah.
I thought that one was pretty funny. And then he turns around and he just sees, I don't know how many kids were sleeping in the bed. We'll just say 8. He turns around and there's 8 plates of cookies and 8 glasses of milk. And he is so sickened by that, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, he probably ate hundreds of cookies
Yeah.
and drank gallons of milk. It was probably so disgusting. But he did it. And then he gets back out and he's like, how many houses do we have left? Or how many names are left on the nice list? And the henchman opens up the list and looks at it. And what does he see?
Cuphead.
Cuphead's name. And he's like, boss, you're not going to like this. And then he looks at it and he freaks out. He starts screaming. And the henchman just goes, remember, Jolly. So he's like, you could do this, boss. You could do this. So they get to Cuphead's house. When they're flying over Cuphead's house, it's a real tea kettle. Again,
Yeah.
a mix of the real and animation. I love it. But he gets there and he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then all of a sudden the henchman's like, you could do this, boss. I believe in you. He goes in the house and he's just putting out Elder Kettle's present. Do you remember what Elder Kettle got?
Like a radio.
Yeah, like a really old school radio. It was like old. And then did he put down a Cuphead or a Mugman present?
Yeah, I think he put that one down first.
Okay, yeah. So the present for Mugman was first. We don't know what he got.
Yeah.
That was all wrapped up blue, probably for Mugman because he's blue. Elder Kettle got the old radio. Then all of a sudden, he reaches into the bag to get Cuphead's present. And what did Cuphead want for Christmas?
A choo-choo.
A choo-choo. He was so mad about this. He was like, this is my choo-choo. He was so mad. And he's like, I think I could just steal this and no one will ever know. I think I'm going to take this. And then all of a sudden he just hears, Santa? And he turns around and Cuphead's standing there in the cutest little pajamas. I think Cuphead looked cute in his pajamas.
Yeah.
What do you think?
He looks so cute.
I guess because we're used to seeing him in his Cuphead clothes.
Yeah.
But just in these little footy pajamas. And he's like, Santa, I know that I haven't been that nice this year. It's so hard. And he's like, it sure is. Like, he's just like, agreeing with him. And he's just like, I think even if I didn't get it what I wanted this year, just seeing you made this worth it or something like that. And at that point, the devil already put Cuphead's choo-choo into his coat. He was going to steal it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when he was like, oh, fine. And he pulls it out and he gives it to Cuphead and he just like hangs it down in front of Cuphead and Cuphead's like trying to grab at it, but the devil didn't want to let go. So he's sitting there pulling at it for a while. Cuphead finally gets it and then he's just in love with it. And then what does Cuphead do with it? Do you remember?
Do a little choo-choo.
Yeah, he pulls the little lever and it makes the cutest little choo-choo sound. And then the devil loses it. He's like, oh, that sound. He was going nuts. And then what happened? Do you remember?
Well, and then he went back to his place, and then like his little Hessman guy builded his little own choo-choo train.
Yep, because like they were like, oh wait, you did it, boss, you finished everything. And then he looks at the nice list, and his name never appears on it, and he's like, what the heck? And then all of a sudden, the henchman's looking at it, and he goes, boss, look at this. And when they look at the nice list, in the brightest letters ever, it just starts spelling out the devil. So he did it. He finished the job and got on the nice list. So then he's back at hell, and he's sitting there on his bench or on his little chair, and he's like looking around. I don't see anything. And then all of a sudden, he looks down on the floor, and there was the choo-choo train going around on the train track. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing that I wanted to ask you. What do you think? He looked down, and it looked like a small choo-choo train on the floor, right?
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, he takes his little pitchfork and bangs it on the ground, and he's in the coolest little conductor outfit. Like he
Yeah.
looked like a train conductor. But then he jumps down into the train set, and he's like the same size as the train. So do you think he shrunk himself?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, because he jumped on the train and he was riding it.
Yeah.
It was so funny because it was a little toy train set. But since he's a devil, he could do whatever he wants, you
Yeah.
know? So he made himself a little tiny devil so he could ride on the train.
Yep.
And then the episode ends by panning back, and you just see the little henchman behind the devil's chair with a lot of tools and some pieces of train track and some boxes, and he's a little bit dirty because the henchman got the devil his train set.
Yep.
But do you remember what Santa said to the devil? Why the devil got mad? Because actually, we forgot a little part here. After he finishes the list and his name's on it, he's back at the North Pole. And Santa's standing there, and Santa goes, I got you something better than a train set. And the devil's like, what is it? What is it? And do you remember what Santa said to him?
Like jolly and niceness.
Yeah, he goes, I gave you the gift of knowing what it's like to be nice and jolly and everything. And the devil was so mad
Yeah.
that he just like left. So Santa kind of pulled one over on the devil, right?
Yeah.
He didn't give him the train set that he promised him. But that's where the henchman came into play. The henchman got it for him because he knew how much he wanted the choo-choo
Yeah.
or the tutu.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
He is. Do you know what a tutu is?
No.
Do you know what a ballerina is?
Yes.
So you know that little
Yeah.
frilly dress that they wear?
Yeah.
That's a tutu. So could you
Oh.
imagine if Santa would have brought the devil a tutu?
Oh my God! The devil would lose it.
He would, but he would probably wear it and dance and sing in it.
Yeah, he would probably be like, "Oh, the devil."
Yeah, because the devil does like to sing and dance and everything in the
Yeah.
Cuphead series. So overall, I really enjoyed it. For a Christmas episode, it was really good.
Yep.
And it was the longest Cuphead episode yet.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it was 30-some minutes long.
Yeah, pretty long.
So do you think that you would watch this again as a Christmas special?
Yeah.
What about next year? Do you think next year you're going to be like, let's go back and watch that Cuphead Christmas special?
Maybe.
And we forgot one detail that I love that they did. Do you want to know what it was?
What?
When the devil went to Cuphead's house, he gets in the house and he looks over at the tree. What did the tree look like?
Don't even remember. It's saved for the last video, and it was that bullet crisp tree.
Yep, it was still the burnt tree from the last episode. I loved that they continued that. That made me laugh so hard. I loved the fact because the devil looks at it and he goes, "What is that?" And it was still against the wall. There was only like one ornament on it. It was all burnt up.
And it just broke.
Yep. But the thing is, what are you gonna do? Cuphead and Mugman got it. You know, that's the way it was. But I love that they continued that from the last episode.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite thing about the episode.
Yeah, I didn't
actually,
like that.
we were laughing about
I
it.
think my favorite part was little Cuphead in his little pajamas.
Oh yeah, that was so cute.
Yeah.
I got to get a picture of that too.
Yeah.
That was great. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's a Christmas classic, and there was good music in this one too, just like the last
A
one.
lot of music.
There was. They did the music that's in like the trailer for Home Alone. I can never remember the name of that song, but that was in there. The Nutcracker Suite was in there again. Just tons of great Christmas music.
Yeah.
So overall, I enjoyed it. I will watch it again.
And like 7,000 for me.
Ooh, 7,000. That's a good rating. So yeah, I liked it. I hope you guys enjoy it too. So go out and watch it. That was season 3, episode 6 of the Cuphead Show.
Yee.
I'll talk to you later. See you, buddy.
Bye.
All right. Well, hopefully you all enjoyed that interview. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Closer to Christmas. I will be back soon. I'm going to try to get another episode out before the big day arrives. So until next time, when you hear my voice and this podcast, we will all be a little bit closer to Christmas. Thanks for listening. I I would like to thank Kevin Ague for the use of his music for the intro and outro to this episode. Links to his music can be found on the show notes for this episode. If you could take a minute of your time and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this show, it would be greatly appreciated. You could email the show at closertochristmaspodcast@gmail.com, and you could visit us online at closertochristmas.com. If you would like to have your voice heard on the show, or if you'd just like to send in a question or a comment, head over to closertochristmas.com and click on the message button. And finally, if you would like to follow our social media so you could see any pictures I might have discussed on the show, you could check us out on Twitter and Instagram, both at Closer to Xmas.
Closer to Christmas is a proud member of the Christmas Podcast Network. The Christmas Podcast Network is home to hundreds of great Christmas podcasts from all around the world.
Okay, Elfie, I'll take it from here. Make sure you visit the Christmas Podcast Network at ChristmasPodcasts.com.
It's Christmas!
Hello, my name is Adam and I'm the host of Merry Britsmas, a podcast about festive things from a British perspective. It's mostly me rambling about TV specials and episodes from the UK, such as The Royal Family and Doctor Who. I also like to talk about Christmas songs and explore British covers, as well as deep diving some classic British Christmas music. To add a false sense of intelligence, I'll also try to educate you on British traditions such as the Christmas number 1 or boxes of chocolates. If you are British and want to get nostalgic, or aren't British and want to find out a little more about holidays on our shores, then please check out Merry Britsmas.
An happy blooming Christmas to you and all.